Imani, thank you so much. Welcome to the Claima Stories podcast powered by Vista. We're super excited to have you here. We are huge fans of CultureCon and the Creative Collective. We're just really happy to be able to have this conversation with you. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to chat with you. Big fan of you and the work that you're doing. So yeah,
That means a lot.
Happy.
Thank you. How's the morning going? How you doing?
It is well with my soul.
Yeah.
I woke up, I'm still on East Coast time, so I woke up at 4 o'clock thinking that I was doing a thing, but it was 7 o'clock to like my body.
You're like, I don't need to be nowhere at 4
A little
o'clock.
too ambitious, right?
It happens. I mean, especially with the travel, that's what happened to us. We went on vacation to Mexico City, and we got out there and kept waking up like either super late or super early. We just couldn't really figure it out. But I was like, it's vacation. I have nowhere to go, so it's fine.
Right.
I can just go back to sleep.
Right. And sometimes when you're already up, it's like, okay, let me have an even slower morning.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
How are you thinking about the new year? What's on your mind? Is there anything do you do resolutions, or are you more so just like, I have these long-term goals, this is kind of what I want to stick to, this is what I'm focused on?
I don't really do resolutions. I'm more of a like mini audit kind of person. So like throughout the year, if there's like a habit I'm doing that I really don't like or something that I'm questioning about myself, I'll really go like deep into that. And I'm like, why am I not sleeping? Let's figure that, like that's the experiment. Yeah. And then I'll kind of move on to the next thing.
I like that.
But I started the year, I didn't do the new year, new me.
I didn't.
Our first day back was actually on the 9th. So I just.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah, we took the break.
Yes, and I just eased into it.
It felt great. I didn't check the emails. Like, I didn't have the anxiety of like, oh my goodness, we just did New Year's and now let's go play catch up.
Right.
And I thought it was funny is like, I feel like some other people did. Like, my inbox was not as crazy as like I thought it was going to be. I had a lot of anxiety.
That's true. Yeah, it was like a slow, but now we're off to the races.
Yeah, it was like you had a break.
Yeah.
And now we on.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing, right? So I know you grew up in the church, you're a preacher's daughter, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about what it was like under that household. Did you feel any certain pressures or certain way you had to be? Like, what was it like?
Yeah, so I'm a PK times 2. My parents met in Bible college, and my mom was like one of like 8 women. There were 500 men. The ratios were crazy. Ooh. And so my dad pretended like he needed to learn Hebrew so that my mom could tutor him. And 10 years later, I was born. But I think growing up, one of the things I loved about like my childhood was I had a ton of agency. Like my parents really did kind of like practice what they preached. And so a lot of times I think people hear preacher's daughter and they're like, it must have been very strict and it must have been very controlling. But like what I saw was like my parents driving past homeless people and putting them in our car and going to McDonald's and me being like, wait, you don't even know this person. Or doing Meals on Wheels and like delivering, like, and so I really was able to kind of see what it looked like to live the life that you say that you live. And I think that coupled with the agency that they gave me, it was just kind of like, do right by people, respect people, and like the rest will follow, work hard. I loved it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because like, you're right. Like you do hear like these stories and folks start to make these assumptions like, oh my goodness, you must not have been able to do anything. And you must not have been able to do that. But it's lovely when you can hear the perspective that you're coming from. And it's like, no, like I actually had a great experience growing up, in this. What was your day-to-day like? Like how are, your parents are very involved in the church. Was that, how do you get involved, I guess?
Well, we had the typical Wednesday night Bible study, which I didn't realize, but that was planting the seeds for Creative Collective format. Had no idea. We're running around drinking red Kool-Aid and living our lives. And then we had church on Sunday. And that was probably the most, again, I also had agency, so I was doing ballet.
Oh, awesome.
I did ballet for 14 years.
Did anyone in your family do ballet as well? Or that was just an interest that you saw and you just took on your own?
My little sisters for a while did ballet before they moved on to like soccer. I have 2 sisters and a brother. And so they dibble-dabbled, but like I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be a ballerina.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were going there every single day after school. The sacrifice, crazy.
Where did that determination come from for you? Like, because there are those folks that are very young that find something they really like, and they're like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it constantly. Like, come on, mom, dad, take me.
That's a great question. I think, one of the patterns I've seen over my life is like, when I get this vision in my head, maybe it's naivete, maybe it is purpose, but I'm just like, I'm gonna see it through until I find the next kind of vision that's in my head. And so when it came to ballet, I just loved like how it made me feel, and I loved it. It's really hard, and it's so beautiful. But we were standing on our toes for like 5 hours a day. It was brutal, but it gave me this discipline that I just think it's kind of like my dad says. He's like, we don't stop when the job is hard, we stop when the job is done. And that is like ingrained in me. It's like, we gotta go.
It just stays in your head, right?
Yes.
Because it's never gonna be easy.
Right.
Nothing's ever, and some things are. Like, I don't wanna put that out into the world that like nothing can't be easy and everything should be hard. But also that sometimes things are just hard, and it doesn't mean it's not for you. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that's the path to get the work done.
Yeah.
I grew up running, and so I feel like the sentiment is similar, just different phrasing. But our coach would always instill in us in that you're never gonna go for a run that you're not gonna feel a little tired. So you have to learn how to run on tired legs. I watch these folks that run marathons, this guy Kipchoge, and he set the world record, broke 2 hours in a marathon. And I have to imagine, I'm like, he's tired, but he's conditioned to work that way. And like, you're conditioned to do whatever you're gonna do, knowing that however the level of difficulty is, until it's done, I gotta move forward.
Right. What events did you run?
I first started doing, I was sprinting, but I just gravitated towards like longer distances. And so I was that kid that everybody was like, you're due to 800. I was like, and everybody's like, it's that indistinguishable
Well, I ran
distance.
track, so
Yeah.
I have so much respect. I told my coach, I will pass this finish line one time. I'm not going, so the 800.
And it's a sprint now.
Yeah,
I mean, it was sprint then, but it is full on a sprint now. That is not they were like, it's a middle distance race. I was like, no, it's not.
That's a hard race.
You're doing the 400
Yeah.
twice at the same pace.
Yes.
What were your events?
So I did ballet for 14 years. I woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I met a friend who said, you should do track. They'll give you a per diem. I said, what's a per diem?
Yeah.
She said, when we go to different meets, they'll give you like $25. Yeah. When you're in high school,
that's some good bread.
It sounded great to me. So I did the hurdles. I did the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, the 400, 4x4, and the 4x1. My coach tried to get me to do like the high jump, but I was guessing. There was no science to it.
You're like, I'm not about to be up
No, but like, I mean, what I extracted from that was conditioning. And it's like, the more you just condition, the easier the hard work is. That is like my mission. It's like, just do it now so that life can be easy later.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's putting it into practice.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, take anything that's really scary. And if you just approach that scary thing every day, eventually it's going to be normal to you. It's not going to be scary anymore. But we don't really take that oftentimes into just day-to-day life. You know what I mean? Like, we just see it and we kind of just like, all right, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, it's like, where do I start? I don't know, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now tell me about also like, your family ended up moving to Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What brought the family out to Georgia?
So as a child, my parents were a lot more active in terms of just like moving around. They were actually ministers in totally different places. So like at one time, my dad was a minister on an Air Force base. We lived on an Air Force base. And then when we moved to Florida, they were ministers at the state penitentiary. So we lived in Florida. Yeah. When we moved to Georgia, my dad was working at the North American Mission Board, which was like the mission board for North America. And we landed in Atlanta, and it kind of was where we've kind of built our roots ever since. Yeah.
Wow. What was it like making friends during that? Like, how did you just really connect with your siblings and your parents, or like, Were you actually able to build relationships with other kids in those different places?
Yeah, I mean, my sisters have always been my best friends. We're like stair steps. Yeah. So it's kind of like traveling with built-in best friends. Then my brother was born. We're 11 years apart, so I was a little bit of distance. But I've never had a problem making friends because I'm a curious person. And if you're genuinely just like, oh, where'd you get that hat? Like, you can make friends.
You can make friends.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I always built community wherever I was going.
That's awesome. How you like Georgia?
I love Georgia. I know. I love Georgia. I love the food. I love the people. I love the eye contact.
I love that, there's something about the South, right? And it's that people actually stop to speak. And I took it for granted when I was growing up. My father, he would speak to everyone.
Oh my gosh.
You're like trying to go to the grocery store.
Yes.
And he's like 40 minutes with somebody he saw in the aisle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man. And now I find myself, it's funny that I'm interviewing people. I'm like, I know exactly where I get this from. I know where this comes from.
Have you told him that?
No. Well, my father, unfortunately, he passed away from colon cancer.
Oh my God.
But, you're totally fine. But, yeah, it's all good. But I think for sure, like, all of, like, our family and, like, my mom, and they're like, yeah, that's definitely where you get that from. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, we know.
Right. We absolutely can
we
see
absolutely
it.
know.
Yes.
Tell me, there's a story, though, about you started, like, a production company with your sisters.
I did.
Was it Ellis Girls Productions, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
So it all started with the talent show. We went to a talent show and I saw very impressive acts, but I just thought that we could really add something different. I said to my sisters, we should dance in a talent show. And so they were just like, okay. So we did it, we practiced, but I was young enough to know that I needed a contract.
Wait a minute. You developed a contract?
I did. I went on Microsoft Word, and it was like my name, their name, and it said, I promise to rehearse whenever Imani says. And they signed it.
They signed it?
They did.
How did you convince them? There was nothing else here?
I mean, I was 8, they were 6. It wasn't that big of a barter. And so there'd be days where I'd say, hey guys, it's time to practice. I mean, once a week, not too bad. It's time to practice. They'd be like, no, we don't want to.
Yeah.
We're watching, Angela Anaconda. We don't want to. And I would take my contract. I wasn't a snitch, but I'd say, Mom and Dad, they signed the contract. And so, needless to say, we won the talent shows. Yeah. But I think it was just fun. And me and my sisters have that to kind of look back. And then we expanded to neighborhood production. So we did The Lion King, Aladdin. We'd have like 50 people in our backyard watching a full play.
Yeah, this is wild.
Kids from the neighborhood would audition, callbacks. Like, who did we think we were?
But you were cultivating skills that show up today.
Yeah, it was wild. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. Like, you literally had people showing up in your back. Yes. Were they paying?
It was free, but they paid for like 25 cents for like popcorn.
Yeah.
A free show.
We're gonna get something.
Some kind of revenue.
Take me into, as you got into your career, like what led you to get into television, right? Because you have this interest in ballet and obviously this interest in production and sport. What took you into television?
When I was in 6th grade, my mom, as a gift for spring break, took me to New York City. And I had never seen anything like that. Like, it looked just like on TV. And we had an instant emotional connection with that city. I said, I have to live here. When we came back home, she was like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, well, I know I now don't want to be a dancer. I mean, I think I want to work in entertainment. And that kind of planted the seed. And so I just thought about things that I loved, and I love television. And so I set my sights on working in television in New York City.
When you think about television during that time when you were growing up, like what were the things that stuck out? Like, were you interested in like news? Were you interested in like scripted shows? Like what was the thing that caught your attention?
I think a lot of it was osmosis of what my parents watched. So I was watching a lot of like Emerald, food shows, Iron Chef, Boy Meets World, and a lot of Disney.
Disney's programming when we were growing up.
That's So Raven.
Yeah, it was insane.
It was insane.
Famous Jet Jackson.
I
could go down and listen.
Sister. And like, I think, by way of, again, osmosis, like I really believed what I consumed. Yeah. So all of that, like, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Bimma, I was like, yes. What can stop me? Nothing. It's like, and so I think a lot of that really kind of built, the future version of myself.
So did you end up going into New York? Like, when did you end up going to New York?
So after I guess in college is when I got my first internship experience, and I went to New York. I was interning at Nickelodeon, loved it. It was so much fun, and I think what I realized was I was going to need way more internships to compete for an actual job. Like, this was
How
cute.
come? What was the
the other
competitiveness?
interns? Yes, the other interns, we'd have lunch together and we'd talk about what did they want to do and where had they interned? And they were like, oh yeah, this is my third internship. And I'm just like, wait, this is my first internship.
Yeah.
And so I think I've always been able to objectively look at the next level and say like, okay, I need these skills to compete at that level. And it doesn't make me feel sorry for myself. It's like a challenge. And so I went back to the Career Center at Vanderbilt and I was like, I need another internship. And so the next internship was at CAA, Universal Music Group, ESPN.
You got it in.
We were stacking them because I was like reverse engineering that I needed way more experience. Yeah.
So you go through that process, and then where'd you land in New York?
Yeah, so then I landed at the PAGE program.
PAGE program.
Entry-level program, rotational program. It's supposed to be a year, but as timing would have it, I go to this really small informational with someone who works in HR, and at the end of the informational, he says, I'm looking to hire someone at Bravo. Does anyone, and I'm like, wait.
Bravo.
I love Bravo. Yeah. And so the next day I had 6 interviews and I got the job. So I became a coordinator at Bravo. Yeah.
6 interviews.
Oh my gosh, right? I was sick.
The process. So I was reading a meme recently and they were like, we used to be able to do 2 interviews. Now we do 10.
I was sick I talked to everyone that day.
Everyone. Yeah, and you understand, right? Like it's like, I mean, you have your own company, right? And so I get it now, thinking about it too, is like you want to make sure you're bringing in folks that are going to add to the culture, bringing experiences that are just going to drive you forward because you feel that, you feel when new people come in, you feel what they can bring to the table.
Yeah.
But I think being on the other side of it sometimes is like, that's a lot of people I got to talk to.
It's a lot, but I still have the voicemail saved of when I got the job. That was in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you get the job 2012. And then you continue to work in this industry, and you were at NBC when you actually had this idea to start something of your own.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that journey, right? I don't mean to speed it up, but I am curious to know, like, you're working in the career path that you're passionate about, and then you also have percolate inside of you this idea.
It was all a mistake. It was all an accident. It was all an accident.
I love when a story starts like that.
It was all an accident. Yeah. I was in my dream job. I had a dream boss. I was working on my dream programming. And the one thing I thought as I looked at like my life was I was like, where's my like community? Like I love my job, love my family, like my community piece. Like where is that? And so I went to a few different events and I kind of was like, I wish this had kind of considered more of like the introverted individual because I'm not going to walk around like, I'm just not going to do that. And so I decided to take matters into my own hands and I invited some folks to my house and I cooked for them and we sat in a circle. It's like 10 or 12 of us. And the prompt was, what are you working on? And some people were working on confidence at work, and some people were working on getting over a breakup, and some people were working on, a side hustle. And every time you would kind of throw it out to the room, someone else would kind of pick it up and say, oh, I know someone who can. And it was this really cool ping pong game that we played, and I thought that was it. One time.
You're like,
that was
it.
Be done. Yeah, that was it. I was like, look what we did. This was so great. Yeah. Fare thee well. And then as people were leaving, they're like, that's so great. When are we doing this again? And before I could stop myself, I said, next month. What?
That was fast. You're like, next month.
Next month. Huh. And so then they came back next month and I said, okay, everyone's invited back, but this time bring someone you can vouch for because it's my house.
And they're all coming to your house.
20 people in my house.
Now, you're in New York?
I'm in Harlem.
You're in Harlem.
1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, you see me trying to figure out how big the space is.
It was tight. It was really, really tight, but it was great. So we moved out of my apartment, start bouncing all over the city, and our events went from 20 people to like 300 people.
What's the time between going from that to that?
Probably a month.
Ooh.
Because what was happening, people felt seen,
Yeah.
and it resonated with them. And when someone feels seen, that's better marketing than anything you could ever buy.
Anything you can do.
And so people were like, wait, there's this like new kind of thing where we're just like building together. And so it was really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much, so were you doing a lot of that organizing yourself? Did you immediately start like figuring out like, well, y'all here, y'all gonna help me organize this? How did that work?
I knew that, like, we were talking about that foundation building. Yeah. I knew that it needed a foundation and that I couldn't expect people to build that if they didn't have the vision. So I tried my best to give it as much of a foundation as I could. So, like, I named it. I started an Instagram page. I started these little things that made it feel official. But soon enough, I was like, my friends are also talented. So I slowly started recruiting my friends. And I was like, hey, do you want to, like, I don't know, maybe, like, do you want to come to this thing? And, that I think was really the magic, was everyone was bringing their own kind of, like, special sauce to it as we were growing.
Were you, as it was growing, were you charging? Did you start to charge anything? Okay.
Free tickets. And we were getting the venues for free.
Wow.
It really was just community building. There was no idea of a CultureCon. There was no idea of a sponsorship. Yeah. I didn't even know that those things existed yet. Yeah,
like,
not yet.
That wasn't a point of what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
What, as you were getting to 300 people, what did the programming start to look like? And I know it's focused on community. It's not a big, thing yet, but like, how would you start to organize what it would be about?
It came out of like the depths of all the things I wish I had seen in programming. And like when I was going to programming, you were going to these panels, 3 people talk, then it's over. You don't know anyone in the room. You don't know any kind of like, there also was not a lot of vulnerability. So like a lot of the panels at the time were perfection.
Yep.
It's just like, I'm a millionaire and you could do it too. And I just was like, but like, how did you get there?
How'd you get there? Like seriously.
No, seriously. And like, what's an LLC?
Yeah.
And like, how did you know? And so we were doing events that answered those kind of questions. Because it's like when you're kind of in the first day of school and you feel like everyone else knows the answers, just to come find out, no one knew the answers. No one knew.
Everyone was posturing.
And that's what this space became, was like, no one knows the answers, but we all know different parts of the answer. Yeah. It's like build it together.
Let's build it together.
It was so much fun. We were doing like bingo with like, different stickers, and you could like find someone. It was like, who's the Issa Rae to like, my J. It was incredible, and it was so silly, and it was just like everything that I had dreamt like events could be. Because you could just be yourself. Yeah,
you didn't have to deal with a standard or a conglomerate or this establishment telling you how it should be.
Yeah.
It's literally like, and that's the fun part about building, especially for me, is like, let's go build somewhere in the shadows where no one's trying to tell us or force us what to do. Like, we're just building our own customs and traditions.
I love that. I was absolutely building in the shadows. Yeah, I had no idea.
It's great. You didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of culture, right? Like the word culture. So Travian Shorters defines culture as a transferable set of beliefs that enables a group to survive. And in today, culture, the word has been thrown around a lot in different ways. How do you define, culture? What's that definition to you?
For me, I think it's the nuance, it's the tradition, it's that even though we've all grown up at different parts of the country, different walks of life, we can get on a social platform and all have a wink wink that we know what we're talking about. And I didn't think I even realized how expansive it was until I came to New York City, because people were coming from everywhere. And it was just this incredible bond that we had together. And I think for me, I've always been so inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King and his ability to mobilize and just become bigger than even like he was. And so I think, sometimes the best way to find your passion is to find what really annoys you. And what really annoyed me was that I was, going into these places and seeing these panels talking about hip hop culture, and not a single diverse face was up there.
No,
and I'm just like, this will not stand. And so I didn't realize again that was kind of the chemistry happening inside of me. But I just was like, no.
This ain't it.
No, this ain't it. This is a lie.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy like that's kind of like the thing that motivated you, right? Yeah. Because there's so much of that kind of happens with our culture. We spoke a little bit about that with Gerald from Hood Century Modern, and he spoke a lot about how our culture influences so much of the world now. And we don't actually own it. Yeah. We don't own what they do with our influence. And so it's great to see someone like you that's saying, wait a minute, we're going to put this back in our hands. You mentioned how Martin Luther King inspired you, Martin Luther King Jr. inspires you. Are there other folks that, are like role models that sit on your Rushmore?
I love Oprah, who doesn't. I love that in her interviews, it wasn't just celebrity driven. I love that it's like mothers and husbands and all different walks of life. And I think she really showed us, the power of ownership with her production company and just her late start, and that all of these different things like are possible. And so I love her. My parents, they're huge role models for me. Beyonce.
All of those. It's funny you mentioned Oprah. Oprah, there's an article of Oprah in Forbes from, I believe, 92 maybe, something like that. And I'm totally probably butchering that date. But the article is about when she fired her agent, she hired this lawyer, and she completely changed how they were structuring deals with media personalities. And, she said people were coming around and congratulating her about her agent, saying how, oh, he got you, the $200K a year. And she's like, why are these people walking around congratulating me about this for him for doing his job?
Right.
And then she got expanded to this whole other conversation. And then she ended up from there owning the rights to her show. She then was able to own the production company, and then I think she got a piece inside of the distribution company that I was also doing. It was like, that's what it means to have agency in your work and ownership in your work. Yeah. And so Oprah's one of mine too.
Yes. That's incredible.
She gets it.
She gets it.
Speaking of our culture, Black culture, how do you believe we as Black people are treating that and caring for our own culture? How have you engaged with that as you've been on your path?
It's just, there's so many layers to that. You really just go back and think about the nuances. So the nuance is also great, but it's also sometimes difficult because there's not one way to be Black. Yeah. There's not one way, we're not a monolith. And so I think there's this beautiful intersection where we can find and meet each other. Yeah. But I also think there's this heightened awareness of how special the things that we didn't it was a part of us. Mm-hmm. So now you see, these sites that are popping up that are educating people that, hey, guess what? We've been wearing hoops in our ears for years. Guess what? This brown lip liner look for years, right? Doing our edges for years. And so there is some power in being the author of where trends originate, and kind of, to your point, ownership of our stories and our narratives. And I want to just see more of that. Like you see Tyler Perry, creating an entire ecosystem. Yeah. And I think we're just really starting to just get on the cusp of what true ownership looks like in the future.
We really are.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to see folks like you speaking more about it, right? Like you were talking about, I've been to those panels and folks are up there and you don't get anything out of it. They look great.
Yeah.
But you're there and you're like, I don't know how you got there. And then also, I can't even get access to you after this.
Yeah.
So it really is just I guess I went, but I don't know what I took away.
It's you just need someone to tell the whole truth. Mm-hmm. Because you're doing such a disservice to future generations to show this microwavable version of success. And I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship seeing the highlight reels.
Ooh, speak on
They
it.
have no idea, and for good reason, because people weren't really sharing it. And now you have so many kind of like, pioneers who are just pulling back the curtain.
Like,
I'm so thankful.
This is what it
for
really
them.
looks like.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I got a comment today about that from a friend. She actually DM'd me. And so like before this, I had like this blog thing I had started when I lived back in Louisiana. And she's like, why didn't you mention this? And I was like, I'm gonna mention it. I was like, I just didn't think it was relevant for then. She's like, I just don't want people to think like you just started. She's like, I want them to know like I've been watching you try to figure this thing out for a minute now. And like, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
Right? And like, no one's path is gonna be the same. Like somebody might right place, right time that year and they're off, right? And then somebody still very much might have a great idea, but it might take time to percolate and to adapt to the marketplace. And I think so many of us that they always show like the graph of like someone like digging a hole out and then like they're like right there and they give up.
Yes.
And that's like with entrepreneurship, with creativity or pursuing a career, any of these things, that's how it is. It's like, it's what you said. Like, it's going to be hard, but you're going to go till you finish.
And that's, I think, where a lot of the momentum was coming. When the Creative Collective started on social, there was no like, Imani's the founder. There was none of that. Yeah. I was able to post as this kind of like anonymous, and I was posting things that I was feeling. I was feeling very overwhelmed. I was feeling like everyone else had it figured out. There's this quote I remember posting that was like, when you finally like break, the piece of concrete in half, that it wasn't the last blow that did it, but all the blows that came before.
Wow.
And that I had this optimism that even though it's like so dark and so hard and so overwhelming, that like it wouldn't always be this way. And so right now I'm living in the evidence of that. But at the time, I needed an outlet to be like, will it always be this way? Like, help me.
Yeah, you need to be able to, like, and that's the thing, right? It's not that you're not going to feel those things.
Right.
Right? But you do need to figure out a way to express those things so you're not holding on to them. You're not saying them to yourself daily and ruining your opportunity to do the thing that you are here to do.
Right. And just by, sometimes that isolation when you think you're the only one can be dangerous. And so that was why bringing people together to say you're not the only one who's trying to figure out, how to get promoted. You're not the only one who's kind of like building this kind of vision. Yeah. I think that people were just able to relax in the fact that like, I'm not alone.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Because it can feel that way when you're not doing something that maybe all your peers who you work with are doing or what your family's doing. It can feel like I'm on this island.
Yeah. But to your point, it's individual journeys. There's nothing that comes from looking to the right and looking to the left. And it's wasted energy.
Do you think about track when you make that analogy?
I think about track every time life gets hard. Like, it will always be with me.
It was always be with you.
It was a mental game. My coach would come in and say, Imani, you're the fastest in the heat. There's nothing to worry about. Tell my body that. Like, the anxiety, the fear, like, it really showed me how strong your mind is. Because you're telling me my body's the fastest, but my mind doesn't believe it. I don't believe you. And so I'd get out there, I'd smoke them.
Yep.
But then the next meet, I'm scared
You're
again.
there, you back in the place before.
Yeah, and it was it was the fear. And so my relationship with fear has gotten so much better because it used to win, but I wanted to win. So like, it'd be this really big kind of battle where you feel the fear, but you do it anyways. One of my favorite stories that I learned about Martin Luther King is like, it's 1955, Rosa Parks, refuses to give up her seat. They do this impromptu meeting, all these pastors, and they're trying to figure out like who's going to be the leader of this organization. They vote for Martin Luther King, and he's like, oh, okay. And they say, we need you to give a speech tonight, a 20-minute speech tonight about this new organization. He writes in his autobiography that he was consumed with fear and that he had 20 minutes to prepare. He spent 5 of those minutes having an anxiety attack.
Word.
Then then he prayed and was like, God, give me balance. And then spent the rest of the 15 minutes preparing for his speech. The speech was amazing. We don't hear that story.
You never hear that story.
But that gives me like hope. Like Martin Luther King had anxiety.
Anxiety.
Okay, we can do this.
I do all right.
We can do it.
Wow, that's such a crazy unlock. Like you think about it as like all of us have some form of anxiety. All of us have fears. And we don't talk about it. And we see Oprah and we're like, well, Oprah must have had fears.
Right.
Michelle Obama must have had fears.
Right.
You know, before they go do these things, surely Issa had fears, right? But we see them through these lenses and we're like, these are these perfect humans that don't fear anything. Right. and I can't do it because I have all this fear.
And it's like here's the part that, I'm just coming to understand is you can't have one without the other. If I wanted like the most easiest, comfortable life, I could find that, but I'd be bored to death.
You'd be bored to death.
I'd be bored to death. And so I think, one of the things my mom says is like the only way out is through. Like you want to go around this thing and avoid this thing, but I just feel like it refines you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It truly does.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the easy route.
It's not.
Right? It's the route with more resistance. And so that's why it's likely not the popular route.
Facts.
Right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I could do what I do and I could just, be in a lovely mid-century modern spot with a beautiful view and I don't have to leave ever, yeah, of course. What do you mean? I would do that.
No, you wouldn't.
I know, because like 5 minutes later, I'd be like, right, let's go do something.
Yes, exactly.
It just doesn't align with the purpose, right?
Right.
And that's the part that gets you up.
That's the part that pulls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It gets you up off that sofa.
Yes.
Thinking about culture, I want to go back to one thing. If there was something you could change or evolve in today's society around that, what would that be?
In all of culture?
In Black culture.
If there was something I could change or evolve, I think, and it's kind of what we're seeing, it'd be just a lot building these ecosystems together. Mm. So I think, you go back in time where we were just pitted against each other for so many different reasons. And I think, we're addressing that and we're working through that. But I just think collective, like, ecosystems is like, we're so much stronger together.
Yeah.
And so.
Outside of the isolation.
Yeah, moving outside of that.
Yeah. As CultureCon continued to grow, how often were you having events and bringing folks together?
Well, at the time, it wasn't CultureCon. It was the Creative
Collective.
Collective.
It was the Creative Collective.
Yes, and so at the time, we were doing probably maybe 2 to 3 events, sometimes a month.
Ooh,
and
you were busy.
Those elevators would open, and my heart would just smile. It was just such a safe space. And then what eventually happened after we're doing these repeated events was I said, we should do a conference. We should take all of the elements of these events and do our own conference. And my friends are like, now sis, we're all volunteering.
You went 0 to 100?
Right,
what are they saying?
We had full-time jobs, like all of us. Not just me, we all had full-time jobs. And I'm like, let's do a conference.
Yeah.
But I got some amazing friends. They said, let's do it. Let's do it. And so we did our first conference, CultureCon, in 2017. 200 people. Spike Lee is there. He's our keynote speaker.
Spike Lee?
Yes,
Talk me through this. How you go from no event to event and Spike?
Spike Lee. But that, again, it shows you the power of community. Because one of my friends worked with Spike Lee and said, I feel like he would like something like this. And he invited him, and Spike Lee came. We had a Spike Lee room. The night before, I stayed up till 4 a.m, spray painting gold letters to spell out Spike Lee. We had this like scavenger hunt where it was like Spike Lee's apartment, and it had, do the right thing, and she's got to have it, and he came in. There's a picture of him in his Spike Lee room smiling, and I'm just looking at him, looking at the letters that I'm like spray painting. Look at all my friends. It was really incredible. But I think what we saw also was that there were 200 people in the room, but there was a waiting list of over 500 people who were like, we want to come to CultureCon.
Were you surprised by that at all?
Oh, absolutely. I've been surprised, like even up until 2019, that's when my friend said, please stop. But I'd be like, no one's coming. No one's coming to this
Where
event.
was that coming from?
I think for a long time, I think we just think it's always going to be someone else. Like we're waiting for someone else.
Waiting for someone else.
Here they come.
They're not coming.
They're not coming.
It's you.
It's you. And I think that takes some time. And sometimes I think people who love us, they see in us what we don't really see in ourselves until it's time for us to see it. But I did not see, I saw the living room. That's what I had imagined. And so when we're transforming to 3,000, 4,000 person conference, I still am very much in that living room space. I feel like, is this real?
Yeah.
It was real.
It was real.
Yeah.
So you make that transition, right? You go 10 people. Now this community is like well over 100,000 folks, right?
Yeah.
How do you intentionally scale that intimacy and connect it to those people that were in your house?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing is scaling intimacy. I mean, I think, and we have this in common, we're both introverts, but who are sometimes required to be extroverts. I think for me is I really think about the individual journey of someone coming to these events. Do they know someone? Do they not know someone? And how does that impact how they're going to interact with like the programming? And so again, it goes back to people, being seen. When someone feels seen, they just blossom. And that's where we came up with brave spaces instead of safe spaces, because I feel like safe implies like you're hiding, there's danger, be quiet. But when you're brave, when you're in like full bloom, when you're not having to, code switch or downplay your opinions, it feels different.
No, when you were speaking about those safe spaces and safe spaces, but calling them brave spaces, completely different. And I agree with that. And what it does to people and allows them to open up and maybe be a part of themselves that they didn't realize they could be with other people.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like I experienced a lot when I worked in my corporate career, that I wasn't able to do that, right? Speaking, like the example I always use is like, I never felt comfortable enough to grow my hair out until COVID, and then I left corporate.
Wow.
Because I felt like there's already enough against me, and then the hair would just add to the hurdles that I'm already facing.
That's crazy that you just said that. That was my first act of rebellion. It was a little act of rebellion. And they asked me definitively, like, when did you start? It was when I wore my braids to work. No one said I couldn't wear braids to work. But
you knew
I
it was
knew
a thing.
It was a thing. But I was going to Mexico and these braids had to go in. And so we had to make a decision. But I remember coming into work with my braids and I thought it'd be this big hoopla. And a few people were like, they're pretty, but it wasn't. And so that was the first time where I just was like, I'm doing it.
And it felt great.
Great.
Right? And then like
liberated.
The confidence thing started to, not that the confidence wasn't there, don't get me wrong, but it changes something in you.
It does.
To your point, there's a liberation of like, I'm just gonna do me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna try to not, make other people feel uncomfortable by being who I am or my appearance. Like I'm just gonna do me.
Yeah.
Y'all be okay.
I was like, I'm starting to bloom here, and it's gonna start with this, but it's gonna keep going. And yeah, that was where it started. It was hair.
Now take me through. I have to imagine that your time management skills have to be pretty good, because if CultureCon is growing the way it's growing, and your career is growing the way it's going, like you're a VP.
Yeah.
How are you doing that? Or how were you doing that, shall I say? Because you're on the outside now.
Right. It was definitely time management, and it was also like sacrifice. So I think a lot of times people ask about balance. I was working through the weekend. So I was doing my full-time job and very attentive and present there. Then I was coming home. And so let's say, my job was like, 8 to 6. I'd eat dinner. I'd give myself a full hour for dinner and, watch The Office. And then probably like 8 to 1 a.m., I'm working on Creative Collective and CultureCon.
Ooh.
And then on the weekends, same thing. I would just work through the weekends. And again, I love the foundation because we're not there now.
Yeah.
But I needed to kind of do that momentum
Foundation.
and build that foundation. So it was a lot of work. And I think sometimes I downplay that, but no, it was a lot of work.
Do you think you downplay it to maybe not think so much about how hard the work was, or maybe just because you just truly enjoyed what you were doing?
I think it was like a little bit of both. I think I had found it, something that I couldn't stop thinking about it, to the point my friends were like, Imani, they'll say, is it about work? Because I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm just always thinking about what else can we do for our community? What else do they need? I was becoming obsessed with it, and the momentum that I was feeling, I was almost becoming a workaholic. I mean, I just really, really wanted to work. And I think for me, you know, there also has become sometimes some shame attached to working too much. And so I always like to say that I really do believe in like chapters of your life. I know we're in the soft life era. I love soft life. We're the soft life girls. But I don't think I'd be where I am today if I had soft lifed through my 20s. There's no right or wrong way. It really just depends on what your passion and pull is. But for me, I needed to kind of build that foundation so that I could kind of have a soft life right now.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point to make. Like the people like to rope in this hard work thing into like hustle culture and stuff like that. And I get it. Like, I'm not pushing that on anyone. But certain things do take a certain amount of time and a certain amount of work and a certain amount of sacrifice. And that's not for everyone. Like, that's not, you know, and I think that's more the unlock too, is like, I don't think anyone should feel like they should be forced to feel like they need to go out and do these things if that's not connected to their purpose and what they're building. And then there's some of us that do believe like this is just what needs to be done.
Yeah. and you know, I think that really is the individual journey. I think a lot of times our culture just is like, you must subscribe to this version of a life.
Yeah.
And I saw something that said, you know, the same intensity that you work should be the same intensity that you rest.
Ooh.
And so that's what I love. Is like, there are chapters where it's go season. There's also chapters where, you know, we're resting.
It's chill season.
It's chill season. So I think that is kind of how I look at it, is like, I'm really trying to build a whole life and a life that I'm not trying to escape from.
Yeah.
But a life that I'm like, I love it here.
I love it here.
Yeah.
How did you learn that, right? Because that's kind of connected to burnout, right? Like, you're trying not to get into the space where you're like, I don't even know how to go to the post office. You know what I mean? Simple stuff.
Yes.
And I've been there. Like, I've had burnout before, and that's what I mean. Like, I was having trouble like just going to the simple things because I just couldn't function. For you, how do you keep that mindfulness to try not to get to that place of burnout?
I think you learn to trust yourself. And trust your body. And I think I used to have times where I was like, I'm tired, I can't go anymore. And I'd say, no, keep going. But now I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm gonna see it through. So if I'm hitting a day where it's like, I'm not on today, I'm slow today, I'm tired today, trusting myself enough to say, let's rest today, we'll try again tomorrow, I think is how you can kind of build that balance. And that's what works for me.
Yeah. I love that. You have to be honest with yourself, right? But I love the part where you're like, I'm confident, I do well, like I'm successful. Like, there's nothing doing more hours is not gonna prove any more of that.
Or who are you proving it to?
Who are you proving it to?
You gotta,
Who are you proving it to? You have to see it for you. You can't. The worst place to be is if you're only doing this for other people, because you'll never be a part of the decision making. You'll never be a part of a place where you're comfortable.
Right.
Because it always is dependent on what someone else's value is.
Exactly, which is why I think, to your point, it goes back to the purpose, to the passion, because if you love it, you want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew it was time to give up ballet, because I had been begging my mom every day, ballet. Towards the end, she'd be like, Imani, it's time for ballet. My body was like, no.
I ain't doing it.
And that was something that I had loved. And so just like that, it was no longer for me.
Did you Do you still enjoy the ballet? Like, will you go to like see a ballet?
Yes, and it gives me a little bit of anxiety because especially when the women are like being thrown up into the air, because I think that, like, I just know all the practice and hard work that goes into it. But again, I'm really working on experiencing things more passively. Just going to the ballet and having no stake.
No stake in it. I don't need to do anything with it.
I am here to...
I don't need to critique it.
No critiques. And so that is kind of my thing now, going to events, going to the ballet, just having a more passive version, because your whole life can't be work. Yeah. And so that's where I am.
That's where you are.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, things that you were like, it's time, that was a chapter in my life. You were a VP of Communications at NBC, correct?
Yeah.
And you recently made that decision that this is a career that you were devoted to, and now at this chapter, you're devoting yourself to Creative Collective and CultureCon. And, some people leave dream jobs to start companies, and they talk about some of the things that come up with that. Like, there can be anxiety, there can be grief that comes along with that. How are you handling that transition?
Yeah, what a time. I really think that was such like a beautiful chapter of my life, because you're so right. We think about grieving loved ones, but you can like also grieve moments too. I was talking to my friend Jonathan Jackson about that, and I think because it was so hard to leave, I knew I had to, because it was a kind of situation where I would have stayed forever, happily.
I've been there forever.
And so I knew for something to be pulling me away from something that I wanted to stay at forever, it must be purpose. And it had to be purpose. And so I had such a beautiful send-off from the NBC team, and I was able to kind of like see it through. I spent a third of my life there.
Yeah.
I started as an intern, I left as a VP.
Wow.
It was a beautiful story, and
it's a great storyline.
Yeah, and I remember walking up to NBC. And again, this is when I'm young. I'm 21. I'm listening to Jay-Z. I'm telling myself I can do all these things, and so to leave, such an incredible like company and see it through. Yeah. I have no regrets. I think it happened at the right time, and I think the way that you leave people is so important, because you can always keep those relationships.
You can always keep those relationships. And that's the thing I try to tell anyone. I was like, wherever you are, wherever you go, you're building, don't go there thinking about like just trying to sprint through there and get out. It's like, these are people that should be a part of your life.
Yeah.
For your life.
Forever. Those are my friends.
They're your friends. So, yeah. Those are the people, I'm going to tell you now, when you go do your thing, those are people that's also going to be still there showing up to help you as you continue on your path. Well, now that you're 100% full-time focused, and also balancing your personal life, where is CultureCon going?
Oh man, it's so exciting. I've been a full-time CEO for a month now.
Yeah.
And it's just like learning about people and process and standard operating systems, and I love it. I feel like I'm in business school, but it's for real.
It's for real.
There's so many places that we want to take it. We're coming back this year in person.
Yep.
We're coming off of a 3-city tour.
Yeah.
And so this year, we're still going to have multiple locations, but we're also bringing back our community events. So the return to the living room, scaling intimacy, that's like so important to me and the team. So there's a lot of things that are happening.
This is going to be exciting.
It's going to be exciting.
We're definitely excited.
Yes.
My last question I want to ask you, and I ask everyone the same question, is what advice would you have for entrepreneurs and creatives that want to follow in your footsteps?
I think the advice I'd have for entrepreneurs or creatives who want to kind of, follow my footsteps is to first start with like their passion, what really keeps them awake at night, wakes them up in the morning, and then tangible goals. You're not going to go from 0 to 100, so let's go to 0 to 5 and be proud of yourself.
Yeah. I love that. No one's going to go from 0 to 100, but you do have to, it's important to have those goals, right? Because the point of that is you need to have benchmarks. You need to have something that's keeping you accountable to keep doing those things.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
on the podcast.
you.
This has been a